Alright, so for the next project, I want to replace this nut with a handle, similar to the handle that's used to tighten down the tool post. I've got a piece of, I think it's 1.25 inches. Looks like one of the drops from my trials of using 4140. So that's what we're going to start with. And we're just going to make a simple threaded nut to go on here. If I recall correctly, this is 1/2 20, so we'll do some drilling, threading, and then some chamfering to get the angle I want for the handle. So I'm going to get the camera flipped around and get set up to go. Alright, so I have it set up here, piece checked up. This is a drop off of the muzzle brakes that I make. So I've got a little section that's about, if I could see this, I think I'm going to have to start wearing glasses here soon out here. It's about 7/16. Now I need this piece to be about 1.25 inches. To the stub sticks out. The height from the bottom up to the top here is about 7/8. Now I don't actually need that. What I'll probably end up doing is trimming the top of this off. It's easy enough to pull this out, or I might just take it over with the hacksaw and just zip that top piece off, since it's not going to really be seen. But I haven't really decided. We'll get to that when we get there. Now I need it to be, I need enough space to get a rod in that's about the same size as this here. And of course I didn't grab my calipers. And that's about 1/2 inch diameter. So something similar in size to fit this. And the profile is going to come up and then angle over, like some of the other guys' YouTube channels that you guys I'm sure have seen. And that'll give me the clearance I need for the stud to go in. And what I'm going to do is I'll thread it and then put it on and twist it around until it's almost tight, and mark where I want the bar to be to tighten it down. So let's get turned back around to here and see how she cuts. That'll work out just fine. Now, the diameter on this is I'm gonna have to get my calipers because I can't see that. point. I'm gonna need new batteries. 3.7. So it's an 1 3/8 is what the stock is. I think what I'm gonna do is just take a surface cut here just to clean up the outside diameter, so that it all the surfaces are cut the same. Increase back to 10 thousandths feet rate. Well, it started out really nice, and then it got kind of crappy about a 1/2 inch in. But I think it'll be, knocking everything around here, I think it'll be fine for what we're doing. So I'm going to get this and just clean up the file a little bit. Okay, that'll be plenty. Now I need to set up to cut my angle, which I got to figure out first what that angle is going to be, and then I'll bring you back. Alright, so for this operation I'm going to be using the compound rest to do the cutting, and the handle on the tool post is 15 degrees up. So my plan is to cut that same angle. The only problem is, twist around and show you guys, my scale here on the side is 90 or 0, and it goes to 60 both sides, and it's only got a mark on the front side of this. So the only way I could do this and measure it accurately would be to turn this thing sideways, the base, and it has keys in the bottom to lock it in this way. So I don't really want to mess with that. Eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this zeroed out completely horizontal, and then put my own notch in. I'll mark it and then take a chisel point and punch it so that I have the same mark on this side, so I can do angles off other than just that one point. But what I did was I marked 15 degrees beyond where I wanted it, and then just, I put a little dot on the side here, and then I just rotated the number that was on the tip back to where it was at, which I think for setting it this way where 0 is perfectly, so with 0 being in line this way, it's 75 degrees. And what I did to figure out the angle, I just used my drill grinding gauge, and I put it flat up against this back side here, and then lined it up, just eyeball it with the handle that's on there now, and that gives me 75 degrees off of, it's there 75 degrees, which is 15 degrees past 60. So I just set it to 60, marked 15 degrees over, put a little dot there, and then twisted the 60 to line up with that. It's not perfect, but it doesn't really need to be. This is just going to be a handle to lock this. It's not like it's got to be anything really crazy or complicated. So let's see how this cuts. Probably help if I spun it backwards, since I'm cutting on the other side of the lathe. Should be good there. Now I just need to figure out maybe 1.5 inches there. That'll give me a little under 1 inch to bite on here and hold it. Wondering what I cut this to. Wondering if I can use my let's say I could get my collet chuck out, but that's kind of in between my collets right now that I have, so I don't think I'm gonna mess with it. So I'm gonna shut off the camera. I'm just gonna polish this out by hand. Clean up this area, lay some towels down, and just hit it with the emery cloth real quick, clean that up, and then I'll part it, flip it around, and then we'll drill and tap the inside, then move it over to the milling machine to drill and tap for the handles. And I'll bring you back after I get this sanded off here. Alright, for this operation, I'm just going to be parting this section off. You can see I polished it out a little bit. Didn't spend too much time trying to really get rid of all the tool marks. I just hit it with some 200 and then 300 grit emery, and then with some of the red Scotch-Brite. I've got my compound locked down and set against this surface here, which is true to how it's spinning. I've got my piece, my parting tool in 1.5 inches to this front edge here. It's actually just a couple thou over that so that I can clean up the bottom surface once I do this. And when I cut on here, I've had all kinds of problems in the past with chatter. So what I've found is turning it at about 150 RPM, set on a 5/1000 feed rate, I can usually get a really nice chip, and as long as I keep adding oil, it cuts fine with no problem. This stuff is a little bit harder than what I normally do on here, but I also cut the W1 tool steel the same way, and I don't think that this 4140 is really any harder than the W1 tool steel. So I'm hoping that this goes okay, but we shall see. Everything's set, so we're just gonna fire it up and go. that is a little closer than I want to go. So I think do this without burning myself here. I can just it's only like a 30-second tip sticking out there. So now we're off, and this is actually, I thought it was going to be a lot warmer than that. It's barely warm. So that's our part, almost done. Need to get this cleaned up, and I'll bring you back when I'm done. Alright, I'm hoping that this will leave a decent angle. I've got the piece flipped around and stuck in here. We're just going to clean it off. Alright, not the most beautiful surface finish I've ever got, but it's not like it really needs to be. I'm going to drill a hole in here and tap it anyway, so not too worried about it. Alright, next thing I want to do, I'll just flip the camera around here. Hope you guys don't get seasick or motion sickness. Now, I've been using this washer on here. That washer is just a tad bit bigger than this face on the part we're making. It's like there's a chip or something under there, it gouged it a little bit. I wonder if I could take that apart and clean that surface off easily or not. But what I need to do is measure this way. So the top of the threads are just over 7/8. So if I do the hole at least 1 inch in and then tap it all the way to the bottom, then I should have complete clearance for all the threads, and that'll put that hole just over, this is the edge of the shoulder right there, and that'll put it like a 1/16 of an inch past the edge of that shoulder inside. That should give me plenty of room to drill and tap for the handle on that. So let me throw this stuff back together here. And before I drill this to get ready to tap it, I'm going to double check and make sure that this is a half 20. I'm fairly certain that it is, but I just want to double check before I drill in here. So I'll bring you back when I'm ready. Alright, got my center drill set up here, tailstock's locked, I have this face cleaned up, and I think we're ready to just get going on this. Switch out to a 29/64 bit. need to measure it here. Actually, get it this way so you guys can see what I do here. So what I do is I line up this front shoulder of the bit with my mark that I want to you know, my measurement, and then just put a line on there. And I always do it just a little bit past it so that I can bury that line in there a little bit, and I know I'm going to be good. Alright, that is cleared all the way out. Alright, I've got my tap set up in here. And one thing that really sucks about the smithy is the table goes in and stops here, and I have no room to tap. This handle, you know, won't clear anything. So what I end up having to do is just spin the chuck by hand usually. You know, if I'm tapping a bigger, heavier hole, like I did a couple muzzle brakes for AKs that were really, really big. They were like 20 something millimeter actually I think one was like a 36 millimeter thread. Alright, the only other thing I need to do on the lathe for right now is just knock off that shoulder there. So I'm going to stop filming, turn my compound to rest to cut a little 45 on there. Oh, I got everything set up and then turned the camera on and forgot to hit record, so I didn't get cutting the chamfer on, but it just cut a real light chamfer on this. Low. Load out, clean it off here real quick. Of course I did that and you guys couldn't even see it. Alright, it adds a little bit of a height to the top here, which is not exactly what I was hoping for, but think it looks all right. Now, I want the handle where it's not going to interfere with anything. So, right there is finger tight. So when it's all the way tight, I'd like to have it sticking straight out. So I think I'm going to mark right here as my point to put the handle on. And that should give me pretty good. That way, no matter how I have the compound set, it shouldn't be in the way. And I was kind of thinking about putting a point, 4 points on here where I can move the handle around if I want to. But I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. I'll probably just do the one for now and then maybe do the other ones later. So that's it for this step. Next is getting it set up in the milling machine and matching this angle so I can put this handle in, and it should be at the same, these two surfaces should be at the same angle, so the handle should match this one coming out at the same height. That way they don't interfere with each other.